Uh, yes, ready.
Great. Hey everyone, and welcome to Cards on the Table, a show where we play and talk about digital card games. Today we're going to be covering our second part of a card review for the Kobolds and Catacombs expansion for Hearthstone, and once again I am joined by Slicky.
Hey, everybody.
And we've kind of already covered everything that the expansion has to offer as far as features and keywords and things like that in our previous video. So in this one, we've got a lot of cards. We also kind of want to touch base on the cards we already reviewed and see if we have any updated thoughts about them. So we're just going to jump right into it. I believe we have somewhere around like 25 brand new cards, maybe 30 or so. So we're gonna go in. We're gonna get started with neutrals. Then we're gonna go druid through warrior in alphabetical order. So the first card we have is the Silver Vanguard. This is a 7 mana 3/3 death rattle. Recruit an 8 cost minion. So initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts. I haven't seen this card before. Looking at it though, I think there's some cool stuff you can do, but I think one of the big problems with this card that I'm seeing immediately is you drop it on turn 7, and you have 3/3 worth of stats. Then you have to find a way to kill it to get an 8 cost minion. So to me, that seems a lot like the reason people didn't play Faceless Summoner. Very similar.
Yeah.
Like you might have a specific 8 cost minion that you want to come out, but it's not going to come out the way you want it to because you're going to have to set up and then they might silence it, and overall that just seems bad.
Yeah, when I first saw this card, I just read it as a 7 mana 3/3 recruit an 8 cost minion, and for like half a second I was like, oh. And then I saw Death Rattle and I went, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I think this is generally like bad. Playing like because like you said, you drop this on turn 7. Even if you drop it on turn 10, like I mean, okay, so I could maybe see if you're like, oh, turn 10, I'm gonna drop this. It's a 3/3. I'm gonna shadow bolt it or something, and it's gonna pull out an 8. And now I just played an 8 cost card and a 7 cost card. But you played a super understated 7 cost card. So you're kind of like at that point, you're doing a 10 mana, 2 card combo to pull out an 8 mana card with +3/+3, kind of the way. But
Right.
you still have to destroy this guy to get your 8. Like I don't know. It just seems like way understated. I saw some people saying like even if this were 6 mana instead of 7 mana, it still wouldn't be that great. And I gotta say, I agree with them. I also think in arena, like you don't want to play a 7 mana 3/3, no matter what it does. But yeah, you drop this on your turn, and then your opponent goes, I don't care about a 3/3 on turn 7. Especially
And
not
then
when it's going to pull out an 8 cost card.
yeah, and then if you are the one that ends up killing it, then you have to deal with summoning sickness. So
Right.
you're still just waiting an extra turn.
It's
But
like
there are.
the. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there are some cases where I can see running this card. If you're a paladin, almost all of your really good legendaries cost 8 mana. So,
Right.
hypothetically, if you were playing this, you could drop this on turn 7, then turn 8, you could maybe Bone Merit. You could pull out Ethereum when they have to get rid of it, or Ragnaros the Fire Lord. There's some hypothetical decks that you could put this in, and it might not be that bad, but I wouldn't say that it's good.
Yeah, I mean, so when I first saw this, I was like, okay, so you have an 8 cost minion, really specific that you want to pull out. But then that brings in the problem of, what if you draw that 8 cost before you draw this, or the turn after or something like that, and it's not dead yet. And that makes me think that if you're gonna play this in a deck, you want to have a couple of 8 cost minions. And you're right, Paladin, especially in Standard, has they've got Ragnaros, Light Lord, you've got Tyrion, and Lich King. Like those are 3 really strong 8 cost cards that you could link to this. And maybe if you're running like some sort of hand buff paladin or something like that, where this won't be a 3/3 when it hits the board, maybe that could be okay. But I don't know. I think I still rate this card kind of low.
Mostly just a paladin card. The death rattle, there is some cool stuff you could do with that in the sense that, you know, I'm thinking hunter deck. Maybe you could like do play dead or something. But what kind of 8 cost card do you want to have in hunter? You know,
Right.
your curve is so much lower than that. Yeah, so I'm not seeing that many ways to activate this. You would have to throw a taunt on it or a buff or something to make it really useful because it's a lot like that little skeleton where you or that or it's not the skeleton, but it's the skelemancer, and you want them to break it, so you have to put taunt on it and then expect them to break it, and then you get your giant skeleton. So the same problems that occur with that card will occur with this card.
Yeah, and I was gonna make that same comparison. How much do you avoid killing that little 2/2 because you don't want to face the 8/8? It's the same here, except that little 2/2 doesn't cost 7 mana in the first place. So, yeah. So Silver Vanguard. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Next card is the Feral Gibberer. All right. So this is a 1 mana 1/1. It says after this minion attacks a hero, add a copy of it to your hand, and this is a rare. So I'll kick things off with this one because I've seen a lot of people saying this card is just for the memes, for the most part, and that it's garbage. And I see the flaws in the card, right? You got to put a 1 mana 1/1 on the board. It has to survive. It has to hit your opponent's face, right? There's a couple of places you could put this, right? There's the Paladin, Steward of Darkshire, where you get the Divine Shield. In Wild, you could do Hobgoblin, which basically turns this into a 3/3. Hand buff Paladin, right? Maybe Token Druid or something like that. But for me, the one thing that I saw that I haven't seen a lot of people mentioning is, and maybe it's just because I'm an awful rogue player or something, but I thought of this and I was like, it's a 1 mana 1/1. Right. You don't want to play this on turn 1, maybe, or maybe you do. But some people did say Quest Rogue, right? Quest Rogue. You can get a bunch of these. But for me, I was just thinking as a combo activator. Like, if you can put this guy on the board, like say you have a spare mana on a turn or something, you need to combo, you play this, you do a combo, they're trying to deal with whatever you did with your combo. This guy stays on the board. You hit face, you've got another 1 mana combo activator. And I don't know if that's actually a legitimate strategy to this guy, because once again, it's not like Battle Cry, add a copy to your hand. Like, he has to live. There's so many ways he can die. Pings, AoEs, just trades because he's a 1 mana 1/1. But I did just see the potential of, like, yeah, if I want a way to constantly just generate these little combo activators in Rogue, maybe this is a card I would try, but not necessarily expect to be successful.
Yeah, I can see the argument for it being a combo thing. I think the big problem with this deck, though, or this card, is that for the same reason you don't draft cards with 1 health in Arena, you wouldn't put this in a standard deck, and that's because a lot of the dominant classes have very good ways to deal with things with 1 health. They have their daggers and their little ping fireball things. And I think you're right. If you put it in hand buff, if you were playing against something slower, like maybe I was going to say Handlock, but they have Mortal Coil.
Yeah.
You could put this on the board, and then maybe by turn 4, which is when Handlock normally starts dropping things, you've got 6 of these on the board, but then they have Hellfire. So you'd have to be playing against a class that doesn't really have a lot of AoE, and they wouldn't have things out early game, and neither of those is really true. So you could see it as kind of just a very bad version of Firefly.
Yeah. And, even in this case, I'm pretty sure that for hand buff or something like that, it's right here. Card clarifications. Any Feral Gibberers created by the effect and placed in your hand do not come with their buffs. So on the board if they get buffed. They don't bounce back with buffs, but that goes the same way with hand buff. Like if you play it and you get it up to like a 3/3 in your hand, you play this minion out on the board, it dies, it comes back as a 1/1, not a 1/1 that's been hand buffed up to 3. So overall, I think it's a bad card, but I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out the potential that it could possibly be used as a combo generator in Rogue. And I don't know how many times you'd have to get this card back into your hand for it to be considered like if you play this one as a combo activator and you can get 2 more in your hand to activate combos, like, is that good enough? To have one card act as 3 combo activators in your deck? I don't know. I really don't know. I just wanted to mention that for this card in particular.
Oh, I guess you could also do Quest Paladin, something that nobody plays, but you're playing buffs on all of your minions anyways. If you could get this thing down on turn, I don't know, 3, I guess, or turn 2, and play with Divine Strength, give it +1/+2, then you could constantly be generating cards that you can keep throwing out and buffing, and it would be slightly cheaper than trying to do Silverhand recruits.
Yeah.
But since nobody plays Quest Paladins, probably not going to happen.
Right. All right, well, let's hit the next card. All right, this is Lone Champion. It's a 3 mana 2/4 battle cry. If you control no other minions, gain Taunt and Divine Shield, and it is a rare.
Seems solid. I think, well, you're the arena guy, but it seems to me like in arena where you're constantly trading back and forth, if they've just traded with your 2-drop and you drop this on turn 3, then you have tempo.
I think so. I'm a little ambivalent in regards to this card. I mean, like, is it a... So here's the real question. Is it a good control card, like, compared to Tar Creeper, right? Because Tar Creeper has better stats on your opponent's turn, right? This guy has a little bit better stats on your turn, but not enough, I think, to make a huge difference. But he does come with Divine Shield, but he's also conditional. Like, Tar Creeper, you drop it, it always has Taunt. It's always got the stats. It's a 3/5 on your opponent's turn. It's a 1/5 or whatever on your turn. So you can't, like, you can get 1 extra damage in per turn with this guy. But, like, would you take this over Tar Creeper?
The only time I would take this over Tar Creeper, see, there's so many different kind of facets to this, because Tar Creeper is pretty much a stalling card. You're attempting to wait a little bit longer before you can start your ball rolling, but this card would allow you to trade better. So you would put this in a more tempo-oriented deck, but at the same time, if it's a tempo-oriented deck, you don't want to have no minions on the board, because then you're already behind. So I think the conditions of this card make it too specific. So
I think the conditional is a little. I mean, I don't think that this will see no play. I don't think that people won't attempt to use this, and it might actually end up being pretty good in a deck that just ignores turn 1 and turn 2 in terms of trying to play minions. Because then you can put this out there, and like you said, you do get better trades. And if you do drop this and it has the Divine Shield, that's harder to remove compared to a Tar Creeper. Although, I mean, if your opponent doesn't have anything on the board either, and you drop this, to where they'd want to spend removal, like, why would they spend removal on this or a Tar Creeper? Like, this isn't threatening. If you have nothing else on the board and you played this guy, like, okay, 2 to the face every turn, like, So, I don't know. I think it'll be experimented with. I'm not personally excited about it, but who knows?
I think it'll be solid in arena if you're lacking on 3-drops and you just don't hit your curve right, you don't hit your 1s, and you don't hit your 2s. You drop this, you might be able to recover, but that's about the only time I can see it seeing a lot of play.
Yeah, but if you're playing an arena deck where you don't have ones and twos, like,
I mean,
good
I'm saying
luck.
if you get unlucky, you
Right,
know.
right. Okay, well, next we have the Rummaging Kobold. This is a 3 mana 1/3 battle cry. Return one of your destroyed weapons to your hand, and it is an epic.
Okay. I think that this would be good in some cases. This seems like one of those cards you slip into a deck that has one weapon. You know, you want your Medivh staff back, or you want your Gorehowl back. Imagine playing this with Gorehowl. You play Gorehowl, you hit them in the face. You play Rummaging Kobold, play Gorehowl again, hit them in the face for another 7 damage. You could just get 14 damage out of this almost immediately if you're playing it, turn 10 or later. So that might be good, but I feel like that they created this for another card that we're going to be showing later on in this set that has to do with warrior weapons. It's supposed to be kind of a way to keep pressure on your opponent, but I feel like generally speaking, it's too slow if you're trying to just do it with a deck that has a lot of weapons.
So I did hear a lot of arguments for putting this card into a deck with a lot of weapons, just as a way to have more weapons. Um, okay, maybe. For me, when I saw this card, I instantly said, if you build a deck that revolves around you having one of these legendary weapons, like let's say the Priest Dragon Soul, right? Play it on turn 3, your victory, your win condition, your strategy is to get those free 5/5 dragons. And someone Harrison Jones, your Dragon Soul, like you need that Dragon Soul back or your win condition is gone. Not that you won't have, secondary win stuff, but this is a card where in Priest, that's the only weapon you have. So, like you said, with a one weapon, that opens up more strategies. So, if you are counting on having that Aluneth to get your card draw, or you're counting on having that Dragon Soul, then this is the card you put in there as your insurance. That if for some reason my weapon gets destroyed, I've got a backup plan. And I don't know that you put 2 of these in your deck, because at that point, like you're hoping that your weapon doesn't get destroyed, right? But if on the off chance that it does, like I think this could be a good one of backup plan. Like, okay, I can get my weapon back and get back into gear and press towards my victory conditioning.
Right. Or a deck like maybe J Druid or Big Druid. Well, I guess it's more Big Druid runs. They run Medivh just so they can play Ultimate Infestation with it and Nourish and Spreading Plague. And just having this might be enough to get them the gas they need off of those spells if something happens to their weapon. They probably don't need that much more help.
Right.
But I think the problem I see in this with being in a deck that has a lot of weapons, my first thought is Pirate Warrior. Okay, you don't really want to play this card on turn 3 because you're experiencing a loss in tempo. All pirates have generally good stats. This has bad stats.
Right, right.
You could play it late game maybe to try to get another Arcanite Reaper back, but you might also get your 1/3 weapon that you got from your little pirate guy on turn 1. You might get Fiery War Axe, and also that deck has been decommissioned. You're going to be experiencing a loss in tempo by playing this and then having to play that weapon again to get a weapon back, and the entire point of having weapons is to maintain tempo. So you're kind of throwing all that away trying to use this card.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I hadn't even thought of you could Gorehowl 4 times, right? 2 Gorehowls, 2 of these guys. It's 28 face damage, or just a lot of minion clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be disgusting in this control warrior deck we keep talking about, or even as like some sort of weird aggro finisher. I don't know.
Yeah, you could
Although
do that.
Gorehowl plus this seems like way too much more. But I like that idea. I really.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of slow for 14 damage, but it's something they'd never see coming.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so that's Rummaging Kobold. All right, next we have the Spiteful Summoner. This is a 6 mana 4/4 battle cry. Deal a spell from your deck, summon a random minion with the same cost, and it's an epic.
You go ahead.
Like when I first saw this card, for whatever reason, I read it as reveal a spell from your deck and summon a random minion from your deck with the same cost. And those couple of words, I think, would make this card really cool. But they're not there. So when I went back and looked at it again, I said, you know what? Like, what are you really doing here? Like, what's the goal? All right, so you're playing mage. You got your pyroblast in there to guarantee you get some crazy big minion. So you play this, and who knows? Okay, like that could be a cool turn 6 play, right? If the only you're playing mage and the only spell in your deck is pyroblast. So turn 6, you play this down, you get a 4/4 and some kind of crazy random, 10 drop.
Yogg-Saron, 5/7. There you go.
Right. Yeah. That could be strong, right? But, that's talking about a deck where mage is just running pyroblast. Which maybe that's the thing you do. I don't know. But you've also just revealed to your opponent that you have pyroblast, so there goes your surprise 10 damage. I think this is, once again, this is a deck building card, right? You try to figure out, hey, I'm playing a minion heavy kind of deck. But I mean, what? So for 6 mana, getting a 4/4, like that says I'm doing something control-y or combo-y, right? I'm not doing aggro. So usually if you're playing that kind of deck, you're running spells, you're running hard removals and AoEs and stuff to keep yourself alive and keep the board cleared until you can get up to those higher mana cost turns. And dropping a 6 mana 4/4, and saying I'm gonna have it reveal my ultimate infestation, which is then gonna summon me, this giant 10 mana minion as well. What are you doing leading up to that? Are you just playing tar creepers and taunts and stuff trying to survive? And then is the combo of playing this and getting that 10 mana minion even worth it? But that's kind of where my head was at when I was looking at this card.
I think that, yes, I think it's definitely bad to try to use this as a win condition because it's too random.
Right.
You hope you're going to get something specific, but I think that somebody can probably do the math on this card and say, well, if you're running this card in a deck that has a curve where most of your spells are, 4 or higher, your odds of getting higher stats for 6 mana than you would normally get, this actually pans out to be worth it. I think that this would be good in a deck, maybe a Paladin deck, if you were running maybe like Lay on Hands and Dino Size, because you're not going to have a lot of spells in there anyways. You're going to be playing, probably mostly a minion-heavy deck. And you have those couple of spells, maybe that's 50% of your spells, and you have decent chances of pulling something really strong off of that. But you definitely wouldn't put it in a spell-heavy deck like, Priest, where most of your spells, Power Word Shield, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, because you're just going to get crap off of that.
Right.
So I think you definitely need to look at the curve of your spells before you put this in there, and then you're still just going to have to hope for the best.
And I think it'll just be fun to mess around with. I think in Arena, it would be entirely dependent on the cost of the spells you've been able to draft and how many you've been able to draft, and how important it is to have those spells early as opposed to late. But this is also an epic, so you're probably not going to see it that often. And I'm pretty sure there are going to be better epics for you to draft instead of this one.
Hopefully. Doesn't always happen, but yeah, hopefully. And you know how few spells there are in Arena. You probably have a very good idea of whether or not this card is going to be good when you pick it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, now we have a legendary. We got a couple of neutral legendaries. This is the first one, Zola the Gorgon. A 3 mana 2/2 battle cry. Choose a friendly minion. add a golden copy of it to your hand. Obviously, the golden copy is just there for flavor. So really, you're picking a minion and adding it to your hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my initial impressions of this card is good.
Yeah, it's good.
Three mana 2/2. Like the stats aren't great, but they're not awful. And there's so much you can do with adding a friendly minion to your hand. And obviously, the best applications of this are going to be things that have Battle Cry and combo, or things that have like taunt. Like grab a taunt so that you can protect yourself, or grab a Battle Cry or a combo minion so that you can, take advantage of that again on your turn. And for me, this is a pretty straightforward, like, don't need to discuss it too much. Like, it just looks like a solid, good card. I definitely wouldn't be upset getting this as the legendary, in my first 10 picks. And yeah, I just think it's a solid card.
Yeah, definitely solid. You could see it as kind of I almost want to say a lesser brand Bronzebeard, but maybe you're playing a combo deck and there's a certain combo piece that you need, and you lost it for some reason. You lost one of them, and you need another copy. Or maybe like a lot of times you're playing maybe Miracle Rogue, you have to drop an Arcane Giant before you're ready to finish your opponent just to keep tempo. Well, you play the Arcane Giant, then you play Zola the Gorgon. Well, now you have another Arcane Giant in case that one gets zapped.
Or your Antonidas and Quest Mage, like you had to put him down for some reason. Or you put him down and something happened, like you messed up your turn. You're like, oh no, they're gonna kill him, and I can't do my, my infinite combo. But maybe if you have Zola, you can bounce him back into your hand, or put a copy in your hand and salvage the situation.
If I'm playing against Quest Mage or Priest, typically when I'm playing against Priest, I try to mulligan for Dirty Rat, and then if I can play it on turn 4, I play it on turn 4, so that way I can pull out the Raza before they get it on turn 5. I can't usually kill it, but it'll usually stop them from being able to one-turn kill me. Well, if they run Zola the Gorgon, they can just pull it back into their hand, and then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So I think this is generally a very good card, especially when you consider that you can only run one legendary in your deck. I run things like Hallucination, and I even run Lotus Agents in one of my rogue decks so I can get more Eye of Blackpaws. If I had Zola the Gorgon, I could just play that too, and I could get another Aya. And then my Jades would be ginormous. So yeah, Zola the Gorgon, very solid card.
Good card. I like it thematically too. I just think it's all around pretty cool.
Yeah, it's Gorgonzola, and Mike Denias made a joke about it. It's pretty clever.
All right. Well, the next neutral legendary we have is King Togwaggle. This is an 8 mana 5/5 battle cry. Swap decks with your opponent. Give them a ransom spell to swap back. Ransom spell is a 5 mana spell. It just says swap decks with your opponent. Alright, so this is obviously like a wacky effect, right? So last expansion, was it last expansion or was it Ungoro where they gave us Benedictus?
Last expansion.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, you know what? If you're Priest, just take your opponent's deck and put a copy of all of it into your deck, right? That's cool. And now this one, they're like, hey, just swap decks with your opponent. Why not? We've got destroy a deck, swap decks, add a deck to your deck. Like, so what do you think?
I think it's bad. I actually like Archbishop Benedictus because there's some cool stuff you can do, especially as Rogue. A big part of Rogue's identity is that they steal other people's cards, and then you don't necessarily know what cards they have in their hand, and you're able to it's hard for a person to play around those cards because you don't know what cards they burgled from you or stolen from you. And then as Priest, it works pretty much the same way. Except with Priest, you always get cards that are actually from their deck. But it's still hard to play. If you play Archbishop Benedictus on turn 10, then they still have probably 20 cards in their deck. It's hard for them to play around all of the things you have. It's not going to win you at games at high level, but I think it's fun, and it also keeps you from fatiguing. and that can be useful a lot of the time. My biggest success with Archbishop is when I get it as Rogue, and then I have all these extra tools. I actually enjoy Archbishop a lot, but this just seems bad because it's 8 mana, and then you give them a 5 mana spell. So you're saying it's probably already turn 8. There's almost no way you can pull this out and get the battle cry before turn 8 unless you're playing in Wild and you've gotten 3 Emperor Therissian ticks, which means they're just going to play King's Ransom on the next turn, which is going to slow them down by 5 mana, and then they're just going to keep playing again. So you've essentially you've given up your turn to get a 5 mana minion, and then you're saying, well, now you only have 5 mana to spend on your turn.
Yeah, or 4 or whatever. Yeah, I don't know how. I feel like there's probably some sort of wacky assholey deck. Like people love to mill, and I feel like, maybe if you can borderline mill yourself or something, and then swap decks, and somehow make it so that they can't cast their spell. I don't know. I feel like there's probably some wacky interaction that I just can't think of because this is just such a weird mechanic. Like swapping decks, there's got to be something cool you can do with it. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think I saw there was some guy on Reddit that said, if you're in Wild and you get a couple of Emperor Therissian ticks, anybody could do a one-turn kill with this deck, or with this card, because you could empty out all of your cards, and then you could swap decks, and then you could play Cold Light Oracle twice, and then that would hit them for 36 damage. But, yeah, that's Wild, and that's a very, very long win condition.
Yeah.
I just don't see this being practical in almost any sense. The way I would like to see it is if it was like a 5-mana card, or there was some way to reduce its cost and still get the battle cry. Maybe if it was a death rattle or something, you could pull it out of your deck with Barnes or something and then trigger it. I don't know. But it seems to me like the main thing you could use this for is some sort of tech card where you can get rid of their combo pieces. You start drawing your own cards once you swap decks with them, and then you throw them away, or you use them successfully or something. But since it's 8 mana, that's almost impossible to do.
Right, and it doesn't swap hands.
Right.
So it
So
just
you
swaps
can't get rid of
decks.
the pieces
So.
they already have.
Yeah. But I will say, the combo that you mentioned in Wild is still bound to be faster than the Warlock Legendary.
So true.
I think this. I think the art on this card looks pretty cool, and that's probably that's the best thing I have to say about it.
What I'm really confused about is it says I see 25% have meta defining. Well, yeah, that does define the way the meta is. No, if you go up to where it's like, what do you think of this?
I saw it. I was trying to see where are the comments going with this. Yeah, it's like that's the
cool
thing.
Somebody mentioned. Yeah, Explorer and Goro. If you had that in your hand, you could just royally screw a person up, but then they just wouldn't want to switch back.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's the thing. It's the fact that you play this, and right after that, they can play it. What about? Could you ramp up to this in Druid so that they wouldn't be able to play the card immediately?
Yeah, you could. Well, if you hit a perfect curve on your ramp, you could, yeah. But what cards would you... I guess what I'm saying is, what would you do with the rest of your deck that's not ramp, that they wouldn't want to...
Make it garbage.
I guess you could make it really big, like have 10, 12, or 10 mana cards, so it's turn 4, they can't swap decks with you, and they also don't have any mana, and they can't play anything in their hand. That might actually work.
Yeah, I think maybe ramp. Like, if you can ramp up to this guy, play him before they're able to, play this out, or if it takes their entire turn 5 just to swap decks back, and you're sitting there like you've ramped up to 8, right? You're at 9 now. They spent their whole turn 5 just trying to get their deck back, and now you've got 9 mana and a full turn. Maybe that would work. I think that's probably where I'd try this at.
Yeah, that's the only. Yeah, or maybe in Wild you could do Astral Communion and try and get something going with that.
Or you could do this. We'll come back to this when we get to the druid cards. That could be. All right. Well, that's King Togwaggle. All right. This tab is suspended.
My favorite card.
Oh man. Let's see if I can go ahead and spend. There we go. Hey man, it saves me. Google Chrome will just eat up your computer resource. All right. So first druid card. We actually have 3 of these, I think. 3 new druid cards released. This one is the Grizzled Guardian. 8 mana, 3/5, Beast, Taunt, Death Rattle, recruit 2 minions that cost 4 or less, and it's a rare. So there's a lot going on, right? It's a beast, it has Taunt, it has Death Rattle that recruits something, costs 4 or less. 2 somethings, actually. So first off, 8 mana, 3/5, even with Taunt. Horrible. Horrible stats. Like, there's really no arguing that. Bad stats. And once again, we're talking about a Death Rattle recruit. So at least this has Taunt, right? So they have to kill it. So it's not like some of the other cards where you drop it and then, you know, like the 7 mana 3/3. It doesn't have Taunt. And then recruit 2 minions that cost 4 or less. Now, I was looking through the new cards, trying to see, like, okay, what can Druid get that cost 4 or less? And it's literally, like, the only thing we've seen from the new set, I think, that cost 4 or less and is a minion is the Feral Gibberer. So, at least not with anything we've seen out of the set so far, this doesn't seem very viable. My general thoughts about this are negative.
Yes. I think generally speaking it is a bad card.
They would agree.
Yeah, we have to go with the deck building thing though. We have to assume that there's a way that you can build this, put this in a deck. And my first thought is Aggro Druid. I know it's 8 mana, so super slow for Aggro Druid, but hypothetically, you know, you play your living mana, that gets blown up, you're running out of cards, it's around turn 8, you drop this, it maybe slows you down and allows you to get some tempo back when they kill it, so you can start building your board back up again.
What
and
about,
it thins out your draws a little bit.
what about a Hadronox deck? Right, so you drop this, turn 8 or whatever, you're ramping up, you're controlling whatever, you drop this guy, they kill it, it pulls out 2 Crypt Lords or 2 Tar Creepers or something like that. Now they have to go through 2 big ass health taunt minions. And then, you know, is Hadronox is a 9 or a 10? I can't remember.
9.
Alright, so then you Hadronox, but Hadronox is a Death Rattle, I believe. Right? But Hadronox out, like, you're just making a bunch of taunts, pulling them out of your deck, thinning your deck out. You can hit that taunt buff guy. You know, maybe something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point. You could put it in a Hadronox deck and then run the little shieldy guy that buffs them up +2/+2, makes them all super tough. Yeah, the problem I'm thinking with that though is my first thought when I'm thinking throw a bunch of taunts into Druid is mill. You know, you keep slowing them down, and then you're blowing up their deck. You're trying to last until fatigue. You play Malfurion and the Pestilent, and then you start armoring up every turn, so you get a ton of armor, and they have little health, they have little cards. But if you're using the recruit mechanic, you're also thinning out your own deck. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, you know, by how much using the recruit. I mean, that is 2 minions. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably try it. Like, you know, if I had it, I don't have Hadronox. I'm not going to craft her to try this. But if I had the cards, I'd give it a shot. I think making some kind of druid that is just like the you shall not pass druid, just like all the taunts to fatigue or whatever. Maybe it could be cool.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm also thinking like Barnes. You know, you get this out on turn 4, maybe that's a big tempo swing, but at the same time, if you're running this, then you're also having to run 2 minions at least that cost 4 or less.
Here we
So,
go. We got it. This is the problem solved, right? You got 2 of these in your deck. It's your only 8 cost minion. And hey, thanks for following, Dre. Maybe? So this is the only 8 cost minion in your deck. You play the 7 mana 3/3. It dies. This guy comes out, and then he starts pulling out tar creepers, and you're like, it was all worth it in the end.
right. Yeah,
Man.
I guess yeah, the thing about that is it's the same thing that happened with Big Priest. If you get Barnes, then you have a 20% higher win rate. But if you don't, then you're kind of
Right.
screwed. Uh, Maybe if you ran this in a deck where you were running Barnes and it was like a token druid, you could play Barnes turn 4, this comes out, and then that's going to give you tempo for the next couple of turns because they're going to have to kill that before they get rid of your vicious fledglings or something. Then when they kill that, you're getting 2 more minions out, you're able to keep up tempo. But also, if you draw this when you're playing tempo druid, aggro druid, it's slowing you down.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword.
And it's at 8 mana. I mean, I just think like the mana's too hard or too high because it's got the beast tag that's kind of relevant in druid, but it's just costs too much.
Yeah, Enervate's dead, so what are you gonna do?
All right. Well, the next druid card we have is Branching Paths. This is a 4 mana spell. It says choose twice. So we've gone from choose 1 to choose 2 in about a year or so. We'll probably hit choose 3. And, so choose twice, draw a card, give your minions +1 attack, or gain 6 armor. You can choose the same option twice. You can do gain 6 armor, draw a card, etc. Now, obviously, the choices for these are a little bit underpowered. The 4 mana gain 6 armor is okay. Like, we have shield block. So shield block, first off, is in warrior. It's not like it's a neutral card. Like, I see that comparison a lot where people are like, oh, it's a 1 mana for 1 more armor shield block. Well, yeah, but shield block is not available to everyone. So 4 mana gain 6 armor is not too bad. Like just there, 4 mana gain 12 armor if you pick the armor twice is pretty solid, I think. Because we have Feral Rage is 4, right? 4 mana.
Yes. No, it's Feral Rage is 3.
3 mana, and that's 8. So I mean, an extra mana for an extra 4 armor, like that seems pretty good. The give your minions +1 attack, you can do that twice, and it's kind of like a Savage Roar, except Savage Roar is 1 cheaper, but the attack buff from this is permanent, as opposed to the 1-turn Savage Roar deal. And then the draw a card twice, to me, that's the most, if you pick that twice, that's the most underpowered combination that you get, right? Arcane Intellect or many other spells will let you draw 2 for about 3. And you also have other options in Druid to draw cards. So that's if you double up on the picks, right? But the key to this card is the flexibility, right? Being able to say, okay, well, I need 6 armor to win, but I also need this combo piece to get lethal. Like, we're neck and neck. I need 6 to make sure he doesn't kill me. I need to draw a card, to try to get my lethal in or whatever. I personally like this card. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I, in general, like the sort of choose adaptable druid. I think around the time you first got started playing, I was playing a druid deck that had a lot of different choose cards in it, and I was just able to adapt to what my opponents were doing pretty easily. And so I like this in general. I think it's a pretty cool card, and I think it'll be experimented with a lot, and I'm not sure where it'll actually end up as far as power level goes.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really solid card. I know it seems underpowered when you consider them as, just 12 armor, or just draw 2 cards, or just give your minions to attack or whatever. But all of the decks that Druid makes are very kind of monochromatic. You know, if you're playing aggro Druid, then you have all of the give your minions +1/+1, give your minions plus, 2/2, or whatever. They play all of those cards. And they will put this in there because there are going to be spaces where they're like, well, I'm out of attack buffs. How am I going to put some more attack buffs in there? You put in Branching Paths. Not only does that give you the attack buff, but also the way that aggro Druid loses is that it runs out of cards. So you end up, you've got your minions down on the board, but you're out of cards. You pull this up, it's like another Nourish. And Nourish was only a draw 3 for the longest time. That's all people used it for. But now with the advent of Big Druid, that's seeing, more use as a gain mana crystals thing. And I think that this is going to be the same way, where people are going to realize when the meta changes, oh, I'm going to need more armor, or I'm going to need more card draw, or more attack for my minions, so I need to put this card in there. And I think, just generally speaking, it's going to be, you're never going to draw this card and be like, oh, well, now I have to get armor or draw cards or give my minions attack. No,
I have cards, but I need buffs. I have buffs, but I need cards. I have both, but I need to survive a turn. Like that's where I think, that's where this card's gonna shine, in the fact that you can put it in with the intention of using it for particular, but ultimately you're able to adapt to whatever's going on with your. You had crappy draws, or they hit an AOE or something, and it's like, okay, well now I need to reestablish. I need to fish for that living mana or something like that.
Yeah. Do we know how this is going to interact with Fandral? Is it?
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
Not unless they change Fandral, because Fandral says your choose one effect.
Okay.
That's Branching Paths. I like it quite a bit. And the last Druid card, and the next crazy one. This is the Druid legendary weapon called Twig of the World Tree. It is a 4-mana 1/5 with Death Rattle, gain 10 mana crystals. So there's really only one way to destroy this yourself as Druid. You don't have any other weapons to equip over this to destroy it. So I've seen a lot of people talking about using Medivh to break this and do some combo turns. And I don't see a lot of people talking about the fact that you can have a 30 mana turn with this.
Yeah, you definitely could.
Because, I mean, like, people always mention, like, oh, you could do this and then Ultimate Infestation. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if you play this on turn 4, I don't know what's going on the board where you're okay with playing a 1/5 weapon on turn 4. But maybe, I don't know, you got some taunts out or something. You got a Crypt Lord you build up a little bit before turn 4. You play this, you ping with it every turn. Right? So you get to turn 10 with 1 durability. And your turn 10 rolls around. You dump your mana, do whatever you want, your Ultimate Infestation or whatever. And then you play Coon. Right? You get your 10 mana back. You've got a...
Play Coon first.
Oh, yeah, either. Play Coon, get your 10 mana. Right? Play your Ultimate Infestation, get your cards. Do the last ping on this. You got 10 mana again. Like, that's a 30 mana turn. And for me, personally, there's a lot of ways that you can use this. I'm not going to go into them because for me, I just want to figure out what's the craziest thing I could do on a turn with 30 mana, assuming that one chunk of that is having to play Coon, get the other 10 mana. What's the craziest kind of stuff I can do? So, yeah.
I think it's busted. I think they're going to nerf this card. It's too powerful. There's some sneaky stuff you can do with this, and I'm not sure what that is, but it's going to come up. You're definitely right. Like a 30 mana turn, you're essentially taking 3 turns all at once. You can't attack, but oh, yeah, that's It's so powerful. And another cool thing about this is that this discourages people from playing pirates. Because there's the what is it? Corsair that takes one durability off the thing.
Yeah.
If you actually do play this on turn 4, you can't Harrison Jones it. I mean, you can, but you're going to be in trouble if you do. You can wait until turn 9 or something and then do it. So I think this is going to cause people to think about strategic weapon destruction.
Yeah, and the thing with this is it's not gain 10 mana crystals this turn.
Right.
So if somebody breaks your weapon, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think the big detriment to this weapon is that it's 4 mana weapon that's a 1/5. So I think it is a huge tempo loss to play this on turn 4. You've got to have a strong turns leading up to this and a strong follow up on 5. So you've got that moment of like weakness there, but yeah, I think you're just going to be able to do crazy stuff with this. Personally, I don't like this card. Just it doesn't like fit into any kind of play style, that I prefer or I like. I do want to try the 30 turn or 30 mana turn and that kind of good stuff, but yeah, I think there's going to be some ridiculous crap that gets done with this.
Yeah, and also it's going to make people think more about what you have in your hand as well, because okay, it's turn 6. You have Harrison Jones in your hand. They've already played Twig of the World Tree. Okay, well if they drop Medivh, then on that next turn they're going to have 10 mana crystals. They're going to have the new weapon, and they might Ultimate Infestation. Okay, so do I play Harrison Jones and give them the 10 mana? It's really going to mess with the way people think about how you're playing. So
Yeah, and you
yeah.
can ramp to this
Mm-hmm.
really easily. Like, and that's the thing. Like I said, turn 4, but with all this druid stuff, I mean, you can ramp to it, and
Yeah.
ramping to 4 is not that difficult.
No, it's not. That's usually like turn 2. You're going to be at 4
Right.
mana.
Um,
And
Lots of
also,
potential. Yeah.
it's if you think about it as like a modification to your hero power, you're basically changing your gain 1 attack, gain 1 armor to gain 2 attack.
Right.
So that's pretty beneficial.
Yeah, and if you've got the Death Knight up, for whatever reason,
And you've got 4 attack.
yeah. I don't like it, but I think it's good.
Yeah, definitely good. Very good.
All right, well, let's move on to Hunter and talk about Seeping Oozling. This is a 6 mana, 5/4 battle cry. Gain the death rattle of a random minion in your deck, and it is a rare. Take it away. I think you're more excited about this card than I am.
I am, but I thought it was neutral. I didn't realize it was a hunter card.
It's Hunter.
The problem I have with this card is I personally run a Death Rattle Hunter deck, and it's a lot of fun, but I also don't want to have a 6 mana 5/4 that spawns a 3/2 when it dies. A la Grandmother.
Grandmother, yeah.
And that would be good stat wise, but it's just okay. This is gearing you towards a slower hunter deck. On turn 6, you really want to play Savannah Highmane. But playing this would it could function as a weaker version of Savannah Highmane if that's your only Death Rattle minion. So I don't think it would be weak to play on turn 6 if you didn't draw either one of your Savannah Highmanes. So I think in general it's a really good card, but you have to build a deck around it. You can't just stick it in any hunter deck and expect it to be good, because it's going to be a tempo loss.
Do you think that they're going to put Savannah Highmane in the Hall of Fame or nerf it in any way because it will always be the best 6-drop for Hunter?
People complain about it. I don't know. Maybe. To me, it's just a better version of Cairn. And so that would make me think that, yes, they would put it in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. It's to me, I don't like the idea of putting class specific cards in the Hall of Fame, although I know they've done that a lot, because you're detracting from the total. They're not adding more cards back into the basic cards for each class, so those cards are just gone unless you're playing wild. So I don't like that idea. I guess that is classic, not basic. So
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about this card. I don't really have anything to add to it. I've done some Death Rattle Hunter, but it was back when like Feign Death had just come out.
mhm.
Whenever that was. Can't remember which expansion that's from. Uh, and I liked that. I might try a Death Rattle Hunter again, but I'm more interested in trying to make a Control Hunter that won't work. In Arena, I have no idea. I don't know.
This is one of those cards you wouldn't pick early game
Right.
because you don't want to just pick this card and then be like, okay, well, I'm just going to shove some death rattles in here to make this card work. Well, no, you're experiencing a stat loss, and then you might not even get any good death rattles.
Man, what if you got the Skelemancer Death Rattle thing?
That would be good. If you got Bone Drake, that would be good. But yeah, I think, yeah, if you were playing Arena and you had already drafted some cards like that, because well, I don't think you would draft Skelemancer necessarily unless you had drafted Bone Mare. But if you had Bone Drake or something, and that was your only death rattle, then yeah, shove this in there. Or Tyrion Ford Ring, or something like. Well, wait, you can't play Tyrion Ford Ring. It's a hunter
Right.
card.
It's all Hunter. But speaking of, we've got the Hunter Legendary, Katharina Winterwisp, 8
Hmm.
mana, 6/6, Battle Cry and Death Rattle, recruit a beast. All right, I love this card.
You do.
I love this card. Yeah. Is it a good hunter card? Does it work with the archetypes that currently exist? Probably not. No. Um, I love this card because I think there's so much cool stuff that you can do with it. Cause Battle Cry. Oh my God, Battle Cry. Recruit a beast. Not just Death Rattle. So if you're doing some kind of crazy hunter where for whatever reason you're able to not use beasts, like you're doing tar creepers to stall, you're doing stitch tracker to pull out, other non-beast minions that you're using. You got your abominable bowman in there, like all that kind of stuff, and you're just saying, screw beasts, the only beast I'm gonna have is like King Crush. And then you play this and you're like, boom, Devil Sword. I gotta charge when this comes out, I gotta charge when you put some big taunt on or what. It's just cool. I think this is a card that can make a slower hunt. Maybe not tier one, but at least ladder worthy. In combination with other things. So I'm stoked about it. I also like the artwork. I think it's cool.
That's a really good point. I was thinking of this, and I was thinking, okay, they're still trying to slow down Hunter. You don't want to pull out a jeweled macaw. That would be terrible. You don't want to pull out a kindly grandmother. You want to pull out your Savannah Highmaidens. But what you're talking about, I think that's much better. That gets kind of back to what we talked about in the last video with Warrior. If you have a charge deck, then Recruit's fantastic because you can just blow up
Yeah.
their face. I think that's a really good idea, and that would completely enforce the control hunter archetype because, like you said, if you get King Crush, okay, well now you're looking at 8 face damage. So you're making almost a combo hunter where
Yeah.
you're stalling the same way a freeze mage stalls or the way a priest stalls, and then you play this on turn 8, and then you start bombarding their face with these huge charge minions.
And you
So I
don't
don't.
have to totally give up beast synergy either because, like, so what I'm thinking is like, all right, you got your animal companion. This won't pull that out, so you can still have turn 3 beast. You could throw in your Houndmaster to key off of that, maybe. Like, I'm not saying like I would build the deck that has the beast, but you don't totally have to drop the beast synergy. If you're also playing Deathstalker Rexar, right? because you're leading up to his turn where you get that AoE 2 damage, kind of try to clear the board off so that you can roll into doing this kind of stuff. And you do have the hero power at that point to generate some beasts that you can use some beast synergies on. I don't know if that's the way I'd build this deck, but it's a possibility that leads to you still being able to utilize like your Houndmaster or some of your beast type stuff. But me personally, while I think like, okay, you can do this without giving up the beast, I'm looking at, all right, we're playing secrets, maybe Deathstalker, we're playing those trackers, we're using Animal Companion, we're doing everything we can to use these cool minions that aren't beasts, that are still relevant to Hunter, solid neutrals, kind of stalling out to just have these big crazy turns where we're getting those charge minions, or we're using the Hunter hero power from the Death Knight to get like charge minions and taunt minions and stuff that are beasts. And yeah, I think that I'm just really excited about, like, I think I will craft this if I don't draw it, because I really want to try this kind of Hunter, even if it doesn't work and it's not tier 1.
One thing that bothers me about it, though, is, we're talking about this longer game Hunter, and this card would make that deck work, like you said, but then you're talking about a Hunter that only works if you have one specific card, and it's a legendary. And that kind of hurts my feelings a little bit, because it's like, if you want to make this more viable, then put some more viable slow game Hunter cards in there. Not a 7-mana Crushing Walls or something. Put some more slower cards in there. Some good taunts or something.
Some low curve defensive type stuff. And
right.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, based on what I've seen from the videos and stuff, that there are going to be some more card reveals that kind of lean that way. And like I said, it might not be tier 1, but I don't need a tier 1 deck because I don't grind to legend. Right? I just need something fun that, if it can get me to 15 or 10 or something, sure.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, okay, you put this in your deck, and you also have Professor, what's it called? Professor Putricide. You could just kind of maybe confound your opponent until you had your combo online, just throwing secret after secret. You played that, and you played Cloaked Huntress, maybe. I know that's, kind of an ideal scenario. Probably not going to work out that way, but you could use secrets to slow your opponent down until you had this online.
Yeah, and I do think, we'll touch on it a little bit later. Yeah, I think there's some possibilities, and just overall, I like this card. And we don't know what the Hunter legendary weapon is.
Do you think that this new meta, where they're introducing the recruit mechanic, is going to make that one card, Madame Goya, more useful? Think about it. You play Madame Goya, she puts some specific card back in your deck, you recruit it back out. Maybe. There might be something there.
I don't know. I think she's kind of a weak niche card, but maybe. A lot of these cards we're talking about too, like Barnes and Goya and stuff like that, they're going to rotate out about 5 months. So for everybody who focuses on standard, in Arena, I think you could definitely draft this.
Well, yeah, if you're playing
depends
Hunter
on what else you're looking at. Right?
Yeah, if you're playing Hunter in Arena, you're probably going to be playing a low curve, beast heavy deck. So.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what else you're up against, but there's a lot of bad legendaries.
Yeah, it's decent.
All right, first mage card. I think we have 2 or 3 of these. This is Raven Familiar, a 2-mana 2/2 beast. Battle Cry, reveal a spell in each deck. If yours costs more, draw it. So it's a joust mechanic. I will preface this by saying that this isn't something they have already done. They haven't confirmed that they would do it, but in an interview with Mike Dene, I believe, he said that they were thinking about, like, something he'd like to do is change the joust mechanics so that if you tied, you won. Because currently, if you tie, you lose. So there's kind of the 2 angles to look at it. Right now, the current version in-game is if you reveal a 6-cost spell and they reveal a 6-cost spell, you don't get the effect. So, I don't know. What do you think about this one? 2 mana 2/2 beast in mage. It could
Yeah,
potentially draw you a card.
I think I like that they're putting Joust back in. That's my first thought. I don't like it. I like mechanics and stuff, and I like to see them done in new and interesting ways. I don't like it when they're just like, we're never going to do this mechanic again. That bothers me. I guess that's what Wild is for, but yeah, I'm glad to see it come back. Uh, this reminds me a lot of that 7 mana card we were talking about, or not 7. Was it 7? Where it reveals the spell and then it summons a minion with that cost.
Right.
You really have to think about what your curve looks like, and the the thing about this card is it's a 2 mana card, so you would think it's an early game card. But what you're probably going to be using this for is for your Pyroblast late game or for your Flame Strike. You could play it early just so you have that card later. But
Then your
yeah,
opponent knows it's in your hand because they get to see
right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a very deck buildy card, and if you're going to lose a lot of your control spells if you're trying to make specifically high cost spells so that you draw them. So you're probably going to end up with a Frostbolt or a Fireball or something. And most people don't run spells that cost more than 4 mana, so your odds are decent of, picking up your Pyroblast or your Blizzard or your Flame Strike. And yeah, your opponent then knows you have it. So I think it's a later game card than it looks like.
Yeah, and I think Mage runs so many low-cost spells that this isn't really... Like, I feel like you're pretty likely to lose the Joust on a fairly regular basis. Just because, you've got your Frostbolts, your Fireballs, your Primordial Glyphs, all these really cheap mana spells that are just generally pretty good and get used in a lot of Mage decks. Your Secrets, Ice Blocks and things like that. And I think... Yeah, would you play this over just playing any other 2 mana card that has a body and draws you a card guaranteed? Because it's a beast tag in Mage. Maybe if it was an elemental or, something that actually had some legitimate synergy in Mage, but to me, the beast tag right now, based on what we've seen, means nothing. It might as well just be a 2 mana 2/2 with that effect. So
I don't think they put the beast tag in there specifically for Mage. I think they do it so maybe your Jewel Macaw will throw you a Raven Familiar or something. It's
right.
really more for other things that may happen that you can play off of that you didn't plan on. But you're saying that there are a lot of spells that are cheap, but most other classes don't run expensive spells either. So Rogue almost exclusively runs cheap spells, so you're usually going to win the joust against them.
True.
I think it depends on who you're playing against. Sometimes Dirty Rat's a useful card, sometimes it's not. Raven Familiar might be the same way.
Yeah, I think in Arena this might not be too bad. It's a common 2 mana 2/2 card draw is pretty big in Arena, and I think that if you're already drafting some high cost cards, and maybe even if you're not, the potential to get that card draw if you don't already have some in your draft is good enough to probably throw this in there. If you need something, it's a 2-drop or whatever.
Yeah, it's solid stats plus a probable draw. And I guess turn 2. What are you usually playing for Mage? Frostbolt. So you're probably not going to be playing this on turn 2. But yeah, a card draw in Arena is always good with stats that are fair.
Okay. Well, we got another Mage card. This is the Spellstone for the Mage. It is the Lesser Ruby Spellstone, 2 mana spell. Spell. Add a random Mage spell to your hand. Play 2 elementals to upgrade, and it is a rare. The upgrades are Ruby Spellstone, which adds 2 random Mage spells to your hand, and then Greater Ruby Spellstone, which adds 3 random Mage spells to your hand. So at its maximum version, it is a Kabbalist Tome for 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to play a total of 4 elementals to upgrade it, and this card has to be in your hand while you're doing that. So there are some ways to do this really cheaply, like playing Fireflies or whatever. I don't know. Like I'm not super interested in this card. Um, I don't even know if I'd play this in an Elemental Mage. Like, would I just run a Kabbalist Tome instead for consistency, and I don't have to worry about trying to have this in my hand and upgrade it?
Well, I mean, if it's Elemental Mage, then yeah, you might as well run this, I think. Well, like, my first thought, when I see random spells, I think Quest Mage. You don't want to put a bunch of elementals in Quest Mage. You could run this, maybe, but then you're paying 2 mana for 1 spell. You just run Babbling Book instead.
Yeah.
I think really what this gets you in Elemental Mage is late game, what you really focus on is generating tons and tons and tons of water elementals. And the easiest way to do that is to have a plethora of spells to choose from. Okay, well, this minion has 3 health. I need a spell that does 2 damage. So you have Lesser Ruby Spellstone, you roll, you try and get more diverse spells, maybe Arcane Missiles, you don't know, something that's going to help kind of scatter your opponent's health totals. Because if they just have a bunch of 5 health minions, you're not really going to have a lot to be able to deal with that. Your Fireball is not going to work. You have to find something specific or a bunch of different things that'll work in conjunction with each other. I think generally speaking, it's a better version of Kabbalist Tome when run in a Elemental Mage deck. But I definitely wouldn't run it in probably anything else. I probably wouldn't run it in anything else.
Wouldn't run it in a fast mage because, like, you really need this to sit in your hand and upgrade it to get the value. Because, I mean, at the 3rd level, this is pretty solid. 3 random mage spells for 2 mana. I mean,
that's quite really good.
Quite good. Mages have a lot of good spells that you can pull from that as well. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad card at all. But I mean, obviously, it's more support for trying to make an Elemental Mage, and I think that's something that a lot of people want. I've got Lich King, the Jaina Death Knight, so this is a rare. I'm gonna get it. I'll try it out.
Yeah, I would definitely run it. I think it gives a little bit of help also to the way Elemental Mage works. It's a little bit lower curve because they have that 4 mana 5/4 that generates another spell. And this is kind of support for a deck that I was trying to make for a long time, which is Quest Mage, Elemental Mage. Because you have that card, which they put out, I think, at the same time as the Quest, that generates a spell that you didn't already have in your hand. So you're running the Steam Surger, and you're running Lesser Ruby Spellstone. It's really easy to get your Quest off. I'm not sure what your goal is, really. I usually just take the extra turn to gain even more tempo when I'm playing as Elemental Mage. It's probably not a 1-turn KO, but you could definitely run Quest Mage, Elemental Mage, and make that work.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what you come up with. I mean, because this is a rare. I mean, you're bound to get it with the pre-order at least. So.
Right. Arena viability?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, paying 2 mana for just, like, let's say you just play this as is. Like, 2 mana to be able to roll the dice and get a card that might be way better. I mean, what if you play 2 mana and roll this into a Fireball and you can throw it face?
Or what if you play 2 mana and you roll a Lesser Ruby Spellstone?
I don't think this is undraftable in Arena. I think that if you're in a position where it looks like you could throw in a high roll card, or you don't have, a lot of different options, or if you've already drafted some elementals, like if you got a Firefly, I don't know. This is draw 2 cards that weren't in your deck in the first place, so just more cards.
If you had an elemental package in Arena already, I think it would be viable.
Yeah, I don't think it's awful.
Okay.
All right, the next one. This is definitely not the name. Let me see if they've updated it. No, it still says Fluffy Fire Room,
I
which
have
is
seen
not.
this.
Yeah, this one was brand new. After your opponent, I
When,
like it. Like, yeah, Reddit, I like it.
um, make sure you don't back up too far. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you when you're back
Oh,
here.
sorry, my bad.
Uh, yeah,
Hello.
it has a trample effect. I think, yeah, that's nasty. I don't. It's mean good. I think it's
I
really awesome because you can put this in your deck and it can be for one thing, it's a counter to ice block. If you're a mage playing against another mage, it's a counter to ice block. They can't play anything because then you're going to blow up their face. Uh, it's now normally, you would just draw your fireball or whatever, and you would use that to smack them in the face. But any kind of yeah, there's so many reasons why this is good. It's also
I
giving
like trample. In Magic the
right.
Gathering, like I love trample. I think it's a cool mechanic. And also, like, let's be honest, with a lot of the mage secrets, like one of the big problems is that they're countered by either playing a shitty minion or face checking with a shitty minion. Right? So this case, you throw your 1/2 in, you're like, oh, it's just gonna get destroyed, and then I'll hit you with my 8/8. It's like, no, I kill your 1/2 and deal 4 damage to your face. Like,
Yeah.
that's good. It'll make your opponent think more carefully about what they're doing to check your secrets. Kind of like the hunter secret is doing.
Right. I think you would normally play this later game though, because the same way Mirror Entity works, you don't normally play Mirror Entity on turn 3 because your opponent is going to only you're only going to be getting 3 mana worth of value out of it
I do.
because your opponent is going to be playing a 3 mana minion. So you play this later game and then they have to make that decision, do I drop my cheap minion now or do I drop my big minion now, possibly experience. And if it's late game, they probably have less health, and they're not going to be willing to take the damage to the face. So there is a lot of considerations to make.
I also like playing burn mage, and I like playing a secrets oriented mage. I think this could fit in both of them potentially. Because this is pretty solid, if they check you with a low minion, you get burn damage to face. If they don't, then you probably clear something that would have hit you in the face. So it's a little bit of stall. Like before we got on stream, I needed to do like face damage to a hero quest. I literally just made a burn mage. It was like everything that goes face, like even I can't remember the name of it, but the basic card, the 5 mana 4/4 3 damage to your opponent's face. Um, little elf chick or whatever. I threw that in there, and the only thing I had besides that was 2 ice blocks, just to make sure that they started throwing stuff into my face. I didn't have to worry about it. I only played like 2 or 3 games, but I won them all at low ranks. But the point is like tossing this in here, seems fine.
I think it's a little bit too strong, maybe though. When I think about how strong Secret Mage already is, this is going to make Secret Mage even stronger because it'll allow them to keep board control and do even more damage to your face.
I
So
like it.
Secret Mage, I think, might become abusively strong.
I like it. So I used to love playing a mage that was oriented around uh, secrets and stuff like that, and they've been putting out a lot of secrets that I don't get excited about. And yeah, I'm excited about this one. Sure, it's not called the Fluffy Fire Rune, but if it is, that's even better. MLG Anakin, thanks for the follow.
I'm wondering though, like, do you ever wonder why they made Glacial Mysteries? Did they just make it to make Kabbalah's Tome suck? I don't
I
understand that one.
I tried to play Glacial Mystery. I did, and I will try it again because of this not work. But
The problem I have is normally when they make a card that um, has an effect like that, you usually have to play 2 cards to get it to be viable. Like, I know that's kind of weird a weird way to phrase it, but if you think about like Flesh-Eating Ghoul, once 2 minions die, it has 4/3 for 3 mana. Then it's good. Glacial Mysteries, if you go by that same way of thinking about it, you should just have 6 mana, because if it pulls 2 secrets out of your deck, that's 6 mana worth you're getting, and then
Plus
it's
card draw.
viable. Right. Or maybe even 5 mana. But it's 8 mana, and then you have to have more than 2 cards in your deck that make it work. So,
Yeah,
I just
I tried to stuff my deck like full of a bunch of secrets and then play Glacial Mysteries, but the problem I ran into is like I would draw a lot of secrets before that. I tried to do a couple specific ones, but then it's like, what am I trying to do with using other secret combo cards? Like I need more secrets to activate, like get the +2/+2, or be able to do 3 damage to face with the different cards. And I don't know. I'll try it again. I'll try it again because of this. And you'll do the Elemental Quest Mage, and I'll do the weird secrets, Glacial Mystery, Burn Mage. All right, let's move into Paladin. We've got the Benevolent Djinn. Okay, so this is a 3 mana 2/4 elemental. It says at the end of your turn, restore 3 health to your hero, and it's a common.
seems solid. It's not going to get you a lot of board control, and you also wouldn't want to play it on turn 3, so those two things are kind of going against it. And normally turn 3 you're going to want to play Rallying Blade to keep control of the board. But if you're playing a longer game, kind of Paladin, this might be a good card. It would work well with buffs because it has good stat distribution for buffs. You play it on turn 3, it's a 2/4, then you play Blessing of Kings on it. Now you have a 6/8. That's really tough to deal with. So I think Spike Ridge Steed would make this really powerful. I think there are a lot of good things you can do with this card, but it wouldn't be good in a tempo-oriented Paladin deck.
I think this is a decent card. Playing it on turn 3, I don't know if you want to play this on turn 3, but chucking it out there kind of later game just to get some heal back while they've got other stuff on the board that they need to focus on instead of this is pretty good. And just from a personal play perspective, I'm pretty sure I played against you with my Paladin deck that all it does is heal. It doesn't even try to win. It tries to heal until I lose, but my opponent is incredibly annoyed. And I would throw this in there. There's also the elemental tag, right? So the elemental discovery stuff, like Servant of Kalamos. This does give you a class option. It gives you that cheap card that maybe you're gonna get 3 health off this, right? So like a Farseer, 3 mana 3/3, heal for 3, 3 mana 2/4, heal for 3 at the end of every turn. So a little extra point of health to survive, and then that end of turn effect. Now there's also the card that doubles your end of turn effects.
Drakari Enchanter?
I believe so. Yeah. Not saying like, oh, that makes this card awesome, but I don't know. I'm interested to see if anything comes up that makes that particular card playable as well.
I think that this has, now that I'm thinking about it, it has some other uses. If you're playing a taunt-heavy Paladin, which isn't unheard of, you keep this alive for 3 turns, that's 9 points of heal. That's a lot. You throw this in after you play your Sunkeeper Terran, and your opponent, they pretty much lost their board trying to get rid of Sunkeeper, and then you're healing. You could play it on turn 10 at the same time, or right after Sunkeeper Terran. They have so many taunt options with the 3 mana 1/4 little shield guy. You're always going to be running that in a control-oriented Paladin deck to keep drawing more and more taunts. You put this behind a taunt, you're constantly healing. And I think, they've been putting a lot of cards in Paladin lately that makes it very defensive-oriented. And I like that because Paladin has become this kind of sword and shield type class where you have your taunts and you have your heal, and you also have usually you have weapons, which is, usually your sword. And when you think about the way this could work with maybe Blackguard, that would be pretty vicious. If you could keep this up and Blackguard up, living the dream, that would be that'd be incredible. You could destroy your opponent's entire board just by healing. Yeah, I think this is a really good. I like this push towards defensive paladin. I hope it becomes a thing. So I'm
And
not excited about this card.
I would love to steal this from Paladin as a rogue.
I just give Rogue good healing.
Because
Just give
because of
them good
heals,
healing.
right? We're so desperate. Like Wild, I'm always just putting Healbot in there. Like, yes, this will win me games, and it does. My goodness. All right. Well, the next Paladin card. This is one I haven't looked at too much. Fairly new. Just came out today. This is the Lesser Pearl Spellstone. 2 mana. Summon a 2/2 spirit with taunt. Restore 3 health to upgrade. Hey, combos. And it's a rare. Upgrade number 2 summons a 4/4 spirit with taunt, and upgrade number 3 summons a 6/6 spirit with taunt for 2. Yeah, this obviously combos with the card we were just at, and I like it. There you go. That's your defensive paladin. Go ahead,
Right.
man. Take it away.
Yeah. I like this idea of a slower control-oriented paladin, and it's never been a hard deck to make. I've done it on accident a lot, not having a clear win condition. I was like, well, I'm just going to put these good paladin cards in a deck, and it ends up being a slower control-oriented paladin. And I like that they're pushing that. I think that this is going to be really solid. And when Grand Tournament was out, a lot of warriors would run the 6/3 that gives you an upgraded hero power.
Yeah, just a car.
Right. So if you just kept hitting your hero power button, you would just eventually win the game based off of how much armor you have. I like the idea of a character that can just heal their way to winning a game. And I'd like the idea of Paladin heading in that direction. I'd like to see it actually happen. Like you're talking about, like that deck you made, where you just annoy people and you just heal, 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 heal.
Yeah, and the reason I made that deck is because I thought it was a cool idea, and I wanted to see, like, what can I do with this? And yeah, this is more tools to do that, and I think that making some sort of crazy, like, defensive fatigue paladin that just heals a whole bunch might be something to do. And I'm sure we'll both have our own takes on it, but yeah, like, between this and the last card, Ragnaros Light Lord, and crazy stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely want to make a Healadin and see how that goes. All right. Next, we have another Paladin card. This is one of the 3 unidentified objects that are going to be coming out. We've already seen the potion for Priest, and then we've got the unidentified Maul, and then there's a shield, which they haven't actually revealed yet. That we will see at some point for some class. So this is a 3 mana 2/2 weapon that gains a bonus effect when you draw it, when it goes into your hand, and it's a rare. And there are 4 different things it can become. It can become the Purifier's Maul, which has Battle Cry, give your minions Divine Shield. The Sacred Maul, which has Battle Cry, give your minions Taunt. Champion's Maul, which is Battle Cry, summon 2 1/1 Silverhand recruits. And Blessed Maul, which is Battle Cry, give your minions +1 attack. Right. What do you think?
I think it's a solid card in a defensive-oriented Paladin deck because 3 out of 4 of the options are going to be good for defense. Well, I mean, I say that Sacred Maul, that will slow down your opponents, but also how many minions are you going to have out on turn 3 if this is what you're playing on turn 3? Typically, you're going to be running Rallying Blade. It's a 3/2. That's just generally better. So this really only works if you already have minions on the board. So I think it's a good card, but it's also not something you want to play on turn 3.
But if you are playing some of the dude cards, like, what is it, Light in the Jungle? Or
Lost in the Jungle.
Lost in the Jungle. Yeah, so if you've got that card and you can play that out and get a bunch of little dudes on the board.
Yeah. It's dude support.
Protect the dude.
Yeah.
Which we can also roll into the next card as well. And if we want to, we can bounce back and forth here, or we could just move on to it. But this is Level Up, a 5 mana spell. Give your Silver Hand recruits +2/+2 and taunt, and it's a rare.
Now Kobold Jailer makes sense, right?
No.
No?
I mean, maybe in Wild. I'm still saying like the dudes in Wild. Like I like the support coming out here, but if you're thinking standard, like we got a few months, and then like Whispers of the Old Gods is gonna rotate out, and that had some of the dude creation stuff, like Stand Against Darkness, I believe, like the summon 5/1/1 Silverhand recruits. I might be getting it. I get names on these wrong, but that's what it does. So yeah, I don't know. I think this weapon's fairly good in Arena. I think if you can put some dudes out and give them taunt, or I mean they'll already have taunt from this, but I don't know. These are both. I think they're both dude synergistic.
Yes, dude synergistic. Maybe Murloc synergistic as well, but I still think you would probably be better off playing Rallying Blade on turn 3 if you're running a Murloc card.
Yeah, because I mean at that point, like you're playing aggro.
Yeah. So you want the extra damage.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, this is a rare card. We'll get it. We'll be able to try it out and see how it goes. Maybe it'll be really good. I definitely don't think it's bad. I just don't know if it's amazing. But apparently, it's very good, according to Hearthbone. So,
okay.
And I think that's probably just because it's a solid card.
Yeah, it's solid. Not bad.
And then anything else to say about Level Up?
Just that it's going to make Token Paladin in Wild really busted.
Yep. Oh, God. Let's talk about the card that's got everybody up in arms, right? So we're into the Priest. We got 2 Priest cards, I think. One of them has a crazy effect. The other one is just crazy. So this is Duskbreaker, a 4-mana 3/3 dragon. Battle Cry, if you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all other minions.
What do they have more Priest?
What do you mean? What? Come on, man. You play more Priest than I do, so you go for it.
Yeah, nobody's playing Dragon Priest, really. Well, some people are, but it's pretty rare. Draconid Operative can just carry a deck by itself. You put this in there. Yeah, that's pretty vicious because that's, Draconid Operative's your bread and butter, but you have to make it to Draconid Operative to get your bread and butter, and this just negates everything your opponent has done turns 1 through 4. So that doesn't seem fair. Is that what they're up in arms about?
Yeah, I mean, like, you're almost always going to be able to trigger this in any kind of Dragon Priest deck. 3 damage to all other minions. You can run 2 of them in your deck. So yeah, it seems pretty beastly.
Yeah, might not be good late game, but definitely be good if you play it on curve.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, depending on what kind of priest you're playing, by the time you hit turn 4, you might not really have anything going on the board.
You might not, and you can also just Power Word Shield out of range or something, or Divine Spirit. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we got to say about this card, right? Like, good.
It's very, very good, yeah. It's mini Dragonfire Potion.
And yeah, you could just select a couple of dragons to throw into like any deck. I mean, there are decks that run the Patches package, right? That have no business playing pirates, but they run the Patches package just to get that, that 1 ping in there and that kind of deal. So I could definitely see some priest decks running a little dragon package.
Yeah, you put both of these in there. You put both Draconid Operatives in there. You're going to queue it almost every single time. And yeah, that I can definitely see what you're saying with the Dragon package. Like, just those 4 cards will win you a ton of games. So.
And then you put this next card in there. Maybe not. So the next card is the Priest Legendary. Temporis. I just want to say Tempura. No. Temporis, 7 mana, 6/6 dragon. Battle Cry, your opponent takes 2 turns, then you take 2 turns.
I don't know. I don't know how this card's going to go. I feel like if you're ahead and you're playing Paladin or Priest, you're ahead. If your opponent doesn't have a combo deck, then you can probably just swing the game back over on your next 2 turns because Priest, I think it's Kibler that usually said they have this kind of set of tools where they can just keep clearing, keep clearing, keep clearing. And on those 2 turns after you play Temporis, they're probably going to be trying to reestablish some sort of board. Then you're just probably going to blow it up with a Dragonfire Potion on your 2 turns, and then you're just going to win the game. But yeah, or Anduin, and then just do everything ever. So I don't know. I think that there's going to be something that comes out, some sort of deck that comes out that uses this, where if you don't have the right counter to it, you're just going to lose against it. In the same way, not Freeze Mage works, but Quest Mage.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I think in a lot of situations, this is a bad card to play.
Yes.
It's got to be a particular deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got to be a particular deck. Maybe it's a wild deck. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if there was some sort of freeze synergy that Priest could get, where they could kind of make that first turn not count, then this would be really broken. But I don't think that there is any sort of Priest anything. Maybe they could blow up with a Dragonfire on turn 6, and then if their opponent hasn't filled the board back up, they can play it on turn 7, and then turns 8, 9, 10 or whatever, they just wipe up. Maybe.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a wait and see. Wait and see. See what Hearthstone thinks. Yeah, kind of all over the place. Yeah, so I think we're fairly right for that. Okay.
Somebody's going to make something, but that's the only time it's going to be played.
All right. Moving on to the Rogue, where we get to talk about something brand new for Rogues, right? They are putting secrets in Rogue. There are going to be...
Rogue?
I do. And I like secrets. Except for in Paladin, I don't really care. And Hunter is so-so. But I like Mage secrets for sure. Hunters, So, yeah. Sudden Betrayal. There's going to be 3 Rogue secrets. They've already said there won't be any secrets in the next expansion after Kobolds, but we may see some return in the future. And these are all kind of twists on a Rogue mechanic or twists on a already existing secret. So Sudden Betrayal is a common. I believe all the secrets are common. First 2 we've seen are. Says, when a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. So a minion that was adjacent to it. So I think this is good. And the reason I think it's good is because regardless of what triggers what, it saves you health. And currently in Rogue, anything that heals you or doesn't cost you health is generally a good thing as long as it's not on an abysmal power level. You obviously can do some cool stuff like the reveal video that they showed for this. They had someone's stubborn gastropod attack into the Lich King, and it's like, okay, yeah, dream scenario maybe. But I think just putting this down, and I don't think you put this down early game, right? Put it down later on when you're going to be preventing 3-4+ damage to your face, because by that time you've used your weapons, your daggers and stuff to keep the board clear. You've used up some of your health, and that's really when you get down to the point of saying, okay, I can't take any more face damage. I gotta finish this game out and protect myself. So yeah, I like it. I don't think that it's super cool mechanically like the Mage secret that we looked at, but I think it's a solid card.
I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. I think the main thing it has going for it is that it's a secret, and but at the same time, because this is the first iteration of secrets, there are only going to be probably 3 secrets
Yeah.
that rogues get. So you know it's going to be one of the 3. I personally still run Betrayal in my decks, and I feel like that's a more proactive card because you actually get to determine who kills who when you play Betrayal. And Betrayal costs the same amount of mana, and it deals damage to another minion. I feel like part of the reason why they were able to make this card is because Betrayal doesn't see any play in the current meta. If
But
it
it
did,
also doesn't deal any damage to the minion that you target.
that is true. And in that sense, it deals damage to both, but Betrayal by itself deals damage to 2 minions as well, and you get to determine which ones they are. And another benefit, like you said, is like it saves you face damage. Betrayal by itself will get rid maybe of some minions, but you also can't destroy everything that's on their board. And if you have sudden betrayal, that might save you an extra little bit of health. So I think it's okay, but I don't think it's great.
Right. I don't think it's super exciting. I think it's a solid secret. I think someone will put it somewhere where it makes sense. I'll definitely try to use it. Yeah. Let's take a look at the next one, which is Cheat Death. Once again, 2-cost secret. Common. It says when a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. It costs 2 less. So kind of a secret sap. Or
Secret shadow
not
step.
sap, shadow step.
Yeah. I think it's really solid. I don't remember what the other secret is, but I definitely think with Rogue, and especially the way we were talking in the last video about death rattles possibly being a big part of Rogue again, anything that has a play this minion again or see this minion again that also has a death rattle, that's always really, really powerful. You know, like if you throw
Lich King out.
Yeah, if you throw the Lich King out, it works really well with taunts, and it gets revived with Redemption or something in Paladin, that's really good. Or Getaway Kodo with, Tyrion Ford Ring. Or you play it with, anything that has taunt or a death rattle. If you have this card, it's going to come back, you're going to be able to play it, get that same effect again, which is normally where the strength of a death rattle comes from, is the death rattle itself. You can do some awesome stuff, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of good battle cries and combos in Rogue as well. So, if they kill my Vile Spine, it comes back into my hand for 2 cheaper, I'll take it, right?
Right, yeah, and cheapening things for Rogue is always good because it's a combo enabler, and you want to be playing tempo-based, and having a cheaper minion is going to allow you to play better to tempo.
Yeah, you use this on your Feral Gibberer. Then it's
Yeah.
a 0-cost 1/1.
That's fantastic. I've never heard of a 0-cost 1/1 before.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think it's fairly solid. I think I would use this for additional bounce effects, and because a lot of times in the decks that I'm playing with Rogue, like, I don't care what comes back to my hand. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I like it.
It's also more Jade synergy, I think, because we've talked before, a lot of the minions that rogues play that have Jades are also death rattles. So.
All right. Getting into the shamans here, we have the Shaman Legendary Minion, Grumble World Shaker, a 6-mana 7/7, Elemental, Battle Cry, return your other minions to your hand. They cost 1.
I think it's awesome.
Like,
this is so powerful.
They came out with a Shaman Legendary and we're just like, it's going to be good this time. Yeah, I mean, Elementals in Shaman are good because Servant of Kalamos can dig you up this. It can dig you up Kalamos, your Earth Elementals, your Fire Elementals. Like, I personally, my favorite deck from Ungoro and my favorite thing to play with Shaman is actually Elementals, because the majority of the Elementals you can play without overloading, which I mentioned in the last video. I don't like overload. So this is a good direction for me to take a shaman. And a lot of your elementals have good battle cries, like Calamos, like Servant of Calamos, like your fire elementals. Like, those are all really good battle cries. And so being able to get those back and they cost 1, it's sick. It's a sick card. And it's
Yeah.
statted well. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, that's really solid. I don't think you play it on turn 6 most of the time because you're getting rid of your
Right.
entire board, but you can have a bunch of, strong minions that have gone out and then they come back to your hand, they cost 1. There's obviously the synergy with healing them. So, you wear out your minions, you play this, you get them back, and it's in that sense, it's like a better version of Brand Bronzebeard in the sense where you get their battle cries twice, um, and they also get a full heal.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really fantastic, really powerful card. I'm sure that they're going to have to nerf something. I don't know what it is yet because there's some sort of OTK involved with this card. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That covers it. I feel we're going to have to whine more about this next card, so.
Yeah,
Let's,
I think somebody said something about like, Fireplume Harbinger. You play a bunch of elementals, you play this, then you play Fireplume Harbinger. All the cards in your hand cost 0.
yeah.
Win the
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah. Holy crap. Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, now let's talk about the Shaman legendary weapon, the Rune Spear. 8 mana, 3/3 weapon. After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets.
It's pretty
It's like
bad.
Tortolan Primalist on a weapon that has crap
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah. And you know how many people play Tortolan Primalist? Everybody.
Yeah.
No, I think it's just bad. But I mean, with, the minion legendary, maybe they're like, well, we'll just give them a terrible weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you play this, you hit your opponent's face, and you get the Shaman Spellstone. It copies a random minion. Like, you probably got totems on the board. A lot of people are saying, like, you need to hit, like, Volcano or something, and then it's worth it. But there's so many Shaman spells that just are very situational, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that is a good point, though, because for the same reason that Yogg Saron is good, this would be good. AoE almost exclusively affects your opponent's board.
But not
So if you,
Volcano.
not Volcano, but it's a Discover. So you pick your Lightning Storm, you pick your Maelstrom Portal. It eventually, I mean, only 3 times, it's not great. It'd be awesome if you could give it Wind Fury somehow, but maybe the AoE would make up for it. Your lightning storms and whatnot, they're not going to have overload, which will make them slightly better. And
That's
maybe you
true.
get to a tight spot, you have to play elemental destruction or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I still think it's bad, though.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's bad, but maybe you're playing some sort of weird control shaman where you want to just blow up the board a dozen times. Maybe it's good there.
Yeah, I think you have to high roll with this too much for it to be good.
Could
So,
be. Yeah.
and a 3/3 for 8, like,
It's a huge tempo loss. But
because
at the same time
Rockbiter got nerfed.
you
Uh,
get to cast a spell that turn though. So you could see it as being slightly cheaper, maybe.
Maybe, or maybe there's going to be a weapon cost reduction thing. Or maybe Shaman will get some really cool spells that we haven't seen yet that'll make this like, oh, if I hit that, I win the game. Or something.
Maybe. I want to play some wild and I want to see what people do with Blingtron and see what kind of
Yeah.
craziness happens because of that.
Yeah.
So
All right. And then this is the last new card that we have to talk about. This is the Warrior Spellstone, the Lesser Mithril Spellstone. It's a 7 mana spell. Summon 1 5/5 Mithril Golem. Equip a weapon to upgrade. And then it upgrades to the Mithril Spellstone, which gives you 2 5/5 Mithril Golems. And then it upgrades to the Greater Mithril Spellstone, which gives you 3 5/5 Mithril Golems.
do you think this is some sort of support for Pyro Warrior or what?
I mean, like, you're not You're not playing out 5/5s that don't do anything turn 7 as a pirate warrior.
Well,
Generally
no.
speaking, I don't like this card.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't play. I don't play like when I play warrior. I like to go like defensive taunt and stuff like that, and not necessarily run a million weapons. Um, I don't know. I think I'd have to see like what's the warrior weapon. Are they coming out with other warrior weapons? This is a way to generate some minions in a deck where you want to focus on heavy minions, so you can play, you know, what was it, recruit party or um, the recruit a minion. Like if you're like, hey, I'm gonna put Gramash in my deck and just big guys that charge. This could be a turn 7, put some 5/5s on the board, kind of a play, but
I think that they're designing cards for a meta that doesn't exist. And it's the same thing they did with Shaman last expansion, where it's like, we're just going to throw in free support, and that's going to be a thing now. And this is very similar to that in the way, in the last expansion they made Forge of Souls. Nobody ever played it. They made a
the
couple of
Furnace
elementals,
Fire
Furnace Fire,
Colossus as
what you
well.
call it. There's the elemental that gets stronger every time you destroy a weapon. Nobody's making these decks, but I think you could, where you're just cycling through a bunch of different weapons, and maybe this is support for that deck that never got made. Eh,
And if the warrior legendary weapon has a death rattle that is pretty strong, kind of like what we saw with the druid one, you may want to be equipping a weapon over top of it to just, you know, get it gone. And I don't know. Like, there's just a lot of things about this card that I don't particularly like because it is so high of a cost. And because you are just summoning 3/5/5s that don't do anything special. So, I mean, you put all the work into getting this charged up, you play it out on the board, and Dragonfire Potion. Like,
yeah, it's
like
kind
I
of a
think,
worse version of like Doppelgangster Evolve, really.
yeah, I just think you can get punished for this too hard. But if those stick on the board, for to your next turn where the summoning sickness is gone and you can actually use them, then it's pretty solid. I think you need to have a strategy in place to kind of set up where these 3/5/5s are protected, or there's something more important that needs to be done on your opponent's turn.
I I feel like this card detracts from one of Warrior's strongest cards, Brawl. You don't want 3/5/5 golems for 7 mana if you're going to be running Brawl, because that's going to clear you down to having one. You don't typically do a bunch of minions on the board as a warrior. You do one or
Right.
two, and then you kind of try to high roll with Brawl. You do a bunch of AoE things like Whirlwind, Sleep with the Fishes. You keep blowing up the board, blowing up the board. So I feel like they want you to do a meta where you're controlling the board with weapons and not playing that many minions, and then you play cards like this. Uh, I don't know. It's sort of a like control warrior kind of archetype they're trying to push
Yeah,
that
it just
doesn't run brawl. I don't know.
it just seems like kind of a weird card.
Yeah, it seems
So,
like a write off to me. I'm sure there's something to it that I'm not seeing, but it seems like a write off.
and the general consensus is good, medium, leaning towards the bad side, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all the new cards. What we're gonna do next is just really quickly run through the cards we went through last week, and we're just gonna say whether we have any new thoughts on them. If we don't, we're just skip through them, and then we're gonna jump into a quick little summary of some thoughts about things we've heard about the expansion, and then we'll be back in a different stream. So let's go ahead and touch on Guild Recruiter. There weren't any new 4-cost minions that were shown, aside from the Feral Gibberer. So, I mean, there were some, I guess. let's glance real quick and see if there's anything super cool you could pull out from any of these other classes. Raven Familiar, I don't think that makes... No, that's got a battle cry, so... Benevolent Jinn, 2 of those pulled out. Or 1 of those pulled out, I guess. Right? You want the battle cry off the Duskbreaker, so... No. And... Any neutral minion? We want the battle cry off that, the battle cry off that. Yeah, I feel like there's nothing really to add, right?
No, not really, but now that I'm thinking about it, somebody commented on our last video and they were talking about the Strength of Wandering Monster and how that could be a really good card if you high rolled with it. You could make, arguably, a deck that intends to high roll with this by getting rid of crappy battle cries. Like,
right.
You know, like the 4/7 thing that deals 4 damage to itself. You could put this in there. Yeah, Injure Blade Master. Or, you know, maybe you could put it in a demon deck, pull a Succubus or something like that, pull an Overload card. So,
and that's the recruit mechanic in general, right? Get around crappy battle cries is one of the, I think, the best ways to use it. Okay.
Yeah.
Carnivorous Cube, I think it's still pretty good. So obviously you got the Hunter card, Death Rattle. You know, recruit a beast, like that could be pretty solid. Any other good things to eat up with that?
Yeah, there's the other Hunter card that's not just the recruit a beast. You could do it on the Oozling. You know, you put 1 minion that has a really specific battle cry in your Hunter deck, and then you have Oozling, you play Oozling, then you play Carnivorous Cube on the Oozling, and you end up making dozens and dozens of this battle cry. That seems awesome. That seems not even that hard to do. So
I wonder how that Hunter card would work if you copied this thing's Death Rattle.
The Oozling?
Yeah.
I think probably the same way Moat Lurker works, where it just doesn't spawn anything.
Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Marin, I got nothing.
No, I think people should. Well, never mind. I was going to say I think people should run tech cards against Marin, but nobody's really playing them anymore. So.
All right, Spellstone. We've obviously seen a way to trigger this twice with Choose Your Path. If you did go for the armor, that's you go from lesser to greater with 1 spell, which is pretty good.
Yes, definitely.
Still think it's a good card.
Yeah, I think that's an even better reason to, what is it, Choose Your Path or whatever it's called.
Path, yeah.
Is it really called Choose Your Path?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought Journey to Emporio.
Branching Paths. Branching Paths.
Branching Paths.
Yeah. All right, Wandering Monsters. So we kind of touched on this already. I think that was the update. Like, you could high roll this and it could be really good.
Yeah.
Also, it's just Hunter defense, right?
Yeah.
It might not be a minion that you get to put on the board for that control Hunter, but it is a way to deflect some damage away from face early game. So.
Yeah, if you're playing the control Hunter, yeah. And honestly, you know, the guy said that a 4/7 would be good. And that's the extreme version. But the more I think about it, there are a lot of good 3-mana minions. There's the 4/7. There's Arcane Golem. That's a 4/4. You could get one of the priest ones. The 3/4 that gives things plus 3 health. Generally, the 3-mana slot has a lot of zoo type strength minions. So, you know, you might get something good.
Yeah. All right, Crushing Walls. I don't know if you play this in the type of Hunter I was talking about, but I'll try it just because I like it. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, if you're trying to play control, 1 card that kills 2 minions isn't bad. So.
All right, Alaneth. I got nothing to add to that.
No, what kind of mage card did we see today? The Raven.
The Secret.
Secret, yeah. No, it doesn't change.
All right, we touched on this one already when we talked about dudes.
Yeah, they're making dude synergy.
There's more
So
dudes, so maybe this will be good, right?
yeah, well, yeah. On turn 2, you play that. On turn 3, you play your 3 minions. On turn 4, or I guess maybe 5, you play level up or something. I don't know.
Unidentified elixir, still good.
Still good. Still good. You could put it on your dragon that just blew up the whole board, and it's now a 5/5 dragon. That's good.
Yep, with lifesteal.
Mm-hmm.
Or divine. Or death rattle, return this minion to your hand. There you go. Kill it and I'll do it to you again.
Well, I guess you could play a potion maybe that gives something life steal. You might be able to do something pretty cool with that. You think about like as Frostless Jaina, I play the Baron Geddon 7/5, heals my character back to full. You could run a Baron Geddon in well, no, you're trying to high roll too much, I think, with that.
You can do something cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Dragon Soul. If you gotta see, I still don't. I was gonna say if you're doing this dragon deck because we saw all these dragons, yeah, obviously you run this. But the thing is, like right now, there's nothing that buffs dragons on the board, so this is still just kind of a generic fit it in wherever it makes sense Lyra type deck, I think.
And we didn't see any more cheap spells, so
Yeah. All right. Kobold Illusionist.
yeah.
Didn't really see anything new. I mean, we saw Rogue Secrets, so
Yeah, the Rogue Secrets will work well with this, I think. You can just make copies of copies of copies of copies using the Rogue Secret in this, maybe. You might be able to do some cool stuff with Death Rattles doing that.
yeah, I think it's yeah. No change for me. Lesser Sapphire Spellstone, I still think it's not that good. I think, maybe you can build a deck where this creates a broken combo, but just generally speaking, I'm still of the opinion that it's.
One thing I don't like about it is generally the cards, like last time they made a bunch of freeze cards for Shaman, and they made a freeze card legendary, which makes sense. Well, the legendary they made this time has nothing to do with this card. You wouldn't run that 6 mana 7/7 that makes all of your cards cost 1 in an overload deck, because the entire point of overload is those cards are already cheap and they stall you out for the next turn. So why would you play those cards again and lose that mana again by overloading?
I might say that I like this card even less because you can get it off of the weapon if you had the weapon, and even though the cost is high, the effect of the base version is low, like in terms of what you're getting for the mana, like just copying a minion, especially if it's copying a random friendly minion, and it's even more out of your hands. So I think that makes me like it a little bit less because I'm like, if I am playing that weapon, I don't think I want to hit this most of the time. Maybe if I have one minion on the board and it's a Ragnaros or something. Sure. All right. Rin. Yep.
Just skip it. Skip it.
And we haven't seen a lot of stuff come out for Warrior, so this hasn't really changed. It's a card we're constantly going back to talk about, so yeah, I think overall the same for me.
Oh, one thing I just thought about. There's the little 1/3 thing that returns a weapon to your hand.
Yeah.
So we could play that with the twig of the tree of the life or whatever, and we could get another 30 mana turn maybe.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay.
All right, so one thing we wanted to talk about is we've seen a lot of comments on Reddit and just general perception from the community that this is a meme expansion, or this is the expansion to skip, or this is the expansion like filler expansion. And I think both of us have some commentary on that, and I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. I think people are thinking of this thing, people like cards like what is it? Cobalt Scalebane. These really powerful, over-the-top cards that they can throw into any deck. They like Bone Mare. They like to run those cards. But, even if this deck doesn't have a lot of really highly statted minions, remember that there's going to be a lot of stuff that you can do that a lot of people probably haven't done or won't do for each individual deck. These are going to be like support cards that are going to make those cards from last expansion that just had really good stats. These cards are going to make those better. You just need to think of how it can happen. And sure, people will do it for you, and you can deck, but you can also do a lot of really cool stuff on your own with these cards. Things that other people, you're not going to see. You're going to probably make a deck that other people have never seen before, and I'm sure, somewhere, somebody out there has made a similar deck. But I really think that this is the time, if you want to experiment with some new, interesting deck ideas, that you can come up with something pretty cool using these cards. And this is the first, I think this is the first expansion in a while where you might be able to trick your opponent just having better ideas about how to play than they will. So.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the first expansions in a while where it doesn't feel like Blizzard is completely holding your hand and forcing deck archetypes on you. There was a lot of cool stuff that came out in Ungoro, and one of the things I really didn't like about Ungoro, and the quest in particular, is that it felt like Blizzard was trying to say, hey, to make this deck, you need to run 1-cost minion hunter. You need to build an elemental deck. You need to build a Death Rattle Priest deck. And it's like, given the card pool, especially in Standard, those decks almost completely fill themselves out without you having options or choice or being able to be creative. And the thing that I like about Kobolds and Catacombs is that it feels like even if you're playing a deck, like say you're playing your Raza Anduin Priest, or you're going to play Face Hunter or Pirate Warrior or whatever, it feels like, kind of what Slicky was saying, with this expansion, even if 22 of your cards in your deck are set, like you gotta have these. The cards from this expansion make it so that there are way more options for the 8 slots you have left to kind of take that deck and make it fit with your playstyle, and not just having to say like, well, these are the best cards, the 8 next best cards, they go in my deck automatically. And we mentioned before that we both like to build, weird, crazy decks. We don't net deck. The only time I've net decked is to prove to myself that I was a good player, because I was continually playing people locally who were net decking and doing okay, but losing a lot of time because the power level of those decks was so high. So I got a hold of a net deck and was like, I'm going to play this just to prove, like, yeah, I can beat everybody if I'm net decking well. And this expansion, to me, regardless of the theme and everything else, just provides a lot of options. It provides, especially if you dig into Wild, it opens up a lot of possibilities for creating those cool thematic decks like Ninja Rogue or Helidin or, Charge Warrior, and the kind of stuff we've been talking about so far. So that's what I think. I don't think it's memey. Every expansion has meme cards, and every expansion people are like, oh, this is the worst expansion, but there's always cards from every expansion that become staples in decks that already exist. And the other thing that kind of bothers me is, like, when I see a lot of these card reviews, people want to say, well, this card isn't good because I don't know where you would be able to fit it into this deck that already exists. I see that a lot of times, like, oh, okay, well, Anduin Raza Priest doesn't have room for this card. But it's like Anduin Raza Priest wasn't a deck until Knights of the Frozen Throne came out. Like there are cards with every expansion that create new decks. Big Druid really happened because Ultimate Infestation gave them that, like Big Druid, Ramp Druid was a thing, but this Big Druid we have, like, it exists largely in part because of Ultimate Infestation. And yes, there are going to be decks that carry over from expansion to expansion, but looking at this and saying, like, this card isn't good because it doesn't fit in this deck, I think is just totally just ridiculous and not the way you should be looking at these cards. You should be thinking about what are the possibilities, even if they don't pan out. So,
yeah, nothing's going to just straight up replace Bone Mare this expansion. Nothing that I've seen any at all, but that doesn't mean that there's not a card that can increase maybe even the viability of Bone Mare. You can think a lot of these are kind of support cards or tech cards. You might have a bad matchup that you just can't fix, but maybe there's going to be something in Kobolds and Catacombs, one specific card that, although memey, might really cater to what you're having trouble with.
yeah. So lastly, very last thing here, I wanted to ask Slicky, what is your favorite or favorite couple of cards that we have seen so far?
Well, you have the Branching Paths, obviously. That's really awesome. I don't even really play Druid, but that's a great card. I like every single card where there's potential. I like Kobold Illusionist, cards that don't seem good, but I know I'm going to make some deck. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make something work. Carnivorous Cube. Yes, every card that doesn't have "this is a giant stat monster" written on it is a good card to me.
I think my favorites so far that I have seen, the Hunter Legendary. I really, really like the Hunter Legendary. The new Mage Secret I like quite a bit as well. And I mean, like I could stop it there. Like I could scroll through and be like, oh, I like this one and this one. But honestly, like those two, especially the Hunter Legendary, I saw that and I was like, this is gonna be my favorite until they come out with something like super cool. For me, those are kind of my top two, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they haven't put out a lot of rogue cards, and I will admit that over the years I've really liked playing tricky rogues, so waiting to see what else. There's a card that's on the little countdown here.
Da-na-na-na.
I can't show it, but it's like a chick with like a ninja mask. Ooh, ninja rogue, please be rogue, be rogue, be rogue, and don't be a secret because I want an actual ninja minion. But yeah. That's going to be it for the stream. Once again, thanks Slicky for joining me. We should have another stream. I believe we'll probably do another stream next week, and if there are some cards that are left to be revealed, we will probably just discuss them in our actual stream. So until next week, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the views. You can catch this on YouTube if you missed it or you just want to watch it at 2x speed or whatever. Yeah. Enjoy, and I hope everyone is excited about the new expansion.
Happy Black Friday!
Woo! All right, peace.